This is a video for Algebra 1A, Lesson 1-1. The objectives for this lesson are to write verbal expressions for algebraic expressions and write algebraic expressions for verbal expressions. We're going to begin with the vocabulary. First, we have algebraic expression. An expression consisting of one or more numbers and variables along with one or more arithmetic operations. If at any time you need to pause this video in order to get anything written down, please do so. Next, we have variable, symbols used to represent unspecified numbers or values. Term, a number, a variable, or a product or quotient of numbers and variables. Factors, in an algebraic expression, the quantities being multiplied. Product, in an algebraic expression, the result of quantities being multiplied. Power, we have in an expression of the form x to the n, it's read x to the nth power. Next, we have exponent. In an expression of the form x to the n, the exponent is n. It indicates the number of times x is used as a factor. And then we have base. Is an expression of the form x to the n. The base is x. Now I'd like for you to get your paper that is titled Words for Algebraic Expressions. You will see there are 6 boxes on this paper where you need to fill in different terms that can be used and can be recognized whenever we're dealing with algebraic expressions. We are going to be writing in all of these boxes, so go ahead and pause and fill in your chart. Next, let's start with example 1. We're supposed to write a verbal expression at least 2 different ways for each algebraic expression. The first thing you want to do is look for the sign of the operation. We can see we have subtraction here, so we will need to use subtraction words to talk about W and 1. The first example is W blank 1. We could put the word minus in here. And the next one says the blank of 1 and W. And we know that subtraction means we have a difference of those two. So the difference of 1 and W. On example 1, part B, we have 1/3 blank a blank. So let's try 1/3 times a cubed, because 3 means we're cubing the a. The next part says the blank of 1/3 and blank blank. When we have a multiplication problem, we find the product of 1/3 and a cubed. Now I'd like for you to try part C and see what you can come up with. Pause the video and then come back and check your answer. For this one, we have 2 blank in blank blank 4. So actually we have a couple things going on in this expression. We have multiplication happening between the 2 and the n, and we also have an addition problem. The n is raised to the 2nd power. So what's happening between 2 and n? Multiplication. We could say 2 times n. And what's happening to n? It's being squared. Blank 4. What's happening here? We could say plus 4. Part D is a little more difficult because we are using parentheses in this problem. Anytime you have something in parentheses, you need to look at the operation and decide. If it's addition, you're going to call this the sum of. If it's subtraction, we're going to call it the difference of. So we have addition right here. What's happening between 4 and our set of parentheses? Multiplication. So let's look at our verbal expression. 4 blank, the blank of blank, blank, and blank. Kind of difficult to read, but let's think about it. What's happening between 4 and our parentheses? We decided it was multiplication, so we're going to say 4 times. And we decided that this was a sum. So we have 4 times the sum of, well, what's going on in here? We have n squared. So the sum of n squared and 1. Now let's go on to example 2a. We're going to flip-flop this, and this time we're given a verbal expression and we have to write it algebraically. Looking at 2a, we have 15 less than k. Let's pick out some clue words that would tell us which operation to use. We have less than, which means subtraction. You will want to be careful on this one because anytime you see than, it's going to turn things around. You might know this as a turnaround word. That means that whatever is before less than, when you write it algebraically, it now goes at the end. And what is ever after less than, when you write it algebraically, it goes at the front. And we know less means subtraction, so we have k minus 15 to represent 15 less than k. Now let's look at 2b. The difference of 17 and 5 times a number. If you pick out the operation words, we have difference, which means subtraction, and we have times, which means multiplication. So we're going to have the difference of 2 different terms. Starts out with the difference of 17. And then we have, after our subtraction sign, 5 times a number. Does not tell us what the number would be, so we get to pick a variable. 5 times a variable, you do not need a multiplication sign between the number and the variable. Now let's look at C. 1/2 the square of B. 1/2 is written as a fraction. The square of B is B squared. This implies multiplication. Even though we don't necessarily see a multiplication word, we know that we need to put them together. Now let's look at 2D. Twice the sum of 15 and a number. So when you do something twice, how many times do you do that? But 2 times. And I accidentally wrote and 2 times. So I'll fix that. Twice the sum of. This signals that we need parentheses because we're doing something 2 times. And what are we doing 2 times? The sum of 15 and a number. And what does sum mean? But to add. So 15 and a number doesn't tell us what number, so we can pick a variable. That's the end of the notes for this lesson. You will have an assignment to go with this on Monday.